So this NBA offseason, there's a few things that are abundantly clear to me. One of those things is that we're not going to have any shortage anytime soon of NBA news. This is going to be an absolutely hectic offseason. You guys are witnessing the prelude to the NBA offseason firsthand. So trust me when I say you guys are going to want to be subscribed to my channel, you're going to want to have notifications on, and you're not going to want to miss a video. Because I'm going to be locked in all off season. I'm going to be locked in all year pretty much. So you guys are going to be seeing a lot more videos than usual from me because I ruptured my Achilles. There's no other way around it. So yeah, I'm pretty stationary now. There's not a lot of things that I'm going to be able to do other than make videos and make content. So while it sucks that my Achilles is ruptured, at least I'll be able to focus my energy on something awesome like making content. This also means that you will be seeing streams from me, and I've been thinking about making a TikTok. You guys can let me know if you want that down in the comments below. If enough people don't want it, I'm not making it. Damian Lillard. When it comes to this Damian Lillard situation, I don't think anybody should be surprised. I feel like the writing has been on the wall for some time. Yes, Damian Lillard is one of the most loyal stars in the NBA. When it boils down to it, Damian Lillard has given this team everything that he possibly can. I've seen Damian Lillard put on some of the hardest carries that I've ever seen a superstar put on. And I think I honestly mean that because if you look at the Blazers rosters, I guess they've had some solid to good rosters, but they've never been great. Even when the Blazers were playing their highest level of basketball, it felt like they were always overachieving. And while overachieving is great, there has to come a time where you don't want to have to overachieve to achieve greatness. I mean, if we go back to just the first round of these playoffs, the Blazers lost to the Denver Nuggets. How many points did Damian Lillard average? He averaged 34.3 points on 43% from the field and 41% from three. His 34.3 points were not enough to beat a Denver Nuggets team that was simply not 100%. Look, the Nuggets are great, but this series was a very telling one for me. And I think it also had to be a very telling series for Damian Lillard also. How can you go out, drop 55 points, record 10 assists, grab 6 boards, shoot 17 of 24, and feel comfortable losing? He shot 71% and dropped 55 points. He was 12 of 17 from the three-point line. Dame's 55 in Game 5 versus the Denver Nuggets was one of the greatest performances that I have ever seen. And yet somehow, this performance still was not enough to beat the Denver Nuggets, who again, were not 100%. The Denver Nuggets did have the league MVP though, so I will cut them some slack. But let's face the facts, man. Damian Lillard is 31 years old, and he's not getting any younger. Besides the Blazers' performance on the court, you could say their performance off the court has to have been equally as frustrating for Damian Lillard. For those of you that don't know, there was a major controversy surrounding the hire of Chauncey Billups. The controversy surrounding Chauncey backed Dame into a corner. Everybody blamed Dame for the hire, when the truth is Dame had no idea what Chauncey did or any idea about Chauncey's past. And that's not saying Chauncey did or didn't do anything. That's just saying that Dame had no knowledge of the whole Chauncey Billups situation. But of course, that didn't stop the media and fans from backing Damian Lillard into a corner. Things got so bad that at one point Dame said, sometimes it's not the people who change, it's the mask that fall off. With the hiring of Chauncey Billups, I feel like there's going to be controversy surrounding the Blazers all season. I feel like Blazers players are going to be put in tough spots, trying to answer tough questions time and time again. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is I guess the Blazers have the potential to be a giant mess. And I think that sucks because I really do have love for Dame and the players on that Portland Trail Blazers team. Today it was leaked that a source close to Damian Lillard said that in days to come that Dame plans to request a trade. Again, with everything that's been going on, this should be absolutely no shock to anybody. But check it out. Things get much, much worse than just Dame planning to demand a trade in days to come. Today, it dropped that Damian Lillard and Chris Haynes had a sit-down conversation. I'm not going to say this conversation had some gems in it because it flat out had diamonds. Chris Haynes, quote, I have to ask you about your situation with the Portland Trail Blazers. With all you've done for the franchise on and off the court, do you feel that same level of commitment has been reciprocated as far as putting you in position to get your first title? Damian Lillard, quote, to make it to the NBA, I had to give it everything I had. I was going to do what needed to be done to win games. I didn't come into the league worrying about what others were doing in the organization. I didn't come in with that type of mentality, but I've been active in probably 95% of the games in my career. I've played through injuries and I've been a part of 2 rebuilds. I feel like I've experienced everything with the Trailblazers, and I've worn that jersey as a badge of honor and with a lot of pride and care. I never felt like my job was to go in and critique what other people were doing in the organization. My job was to make sure the team was functioning and trying to lead them to the best results. I've always assumed everybody's mentality was the same. Even when I'm playing well and we come up short at the end of the season, I go home and the first thing I do is look in the mirror and tell myself, we didn't win a championship. Or if I didn't play as well as I should have, I've had to look in the mirror and tell myself that my performance was unacceptable and I have to do better. And then you go do better. I think that's the stage we're at as a team, where we all, not just me, not just my teammates, not just our coaching staff, not just the front office, everybody in the organization must look in the mirror because we've constantly come up short. We have to look in the mirror and say, I have to be better because whatever it is that we're doing, it's not working and it's not giving us the shot to compete on the level that we want to compete. Chris Haynes, quote, having known you for years in your position, why is this current juncture such a pivotal moment for you? Damian Lillard, quote, there are a few reasons. One, I'm not getting any younger. Our environment has always been great. We're not losing a lot, but we were eliminated by a shorthanded Denver team that I felt we should beat. I just walked away from that really disappointed. I was like, man, this just isn't going to work. We're not winning the championship, but we've got a successful organization. We're not a franchise that's just out there losing every year and getting divided. We have positive seasons. We just don't end up with a championship. So I feel like at this point, I basically made the decision that if you do what you've always done, you'll be where you have always been. Now, the rest of the quote is on the screen, but whoa. That's big time stuff coming from Damian Lillard, who has been silent for the majority of his career. Man, this just isn't going to work is not what you want to hear your franchise players saying basically ever. My major takeaway from what I've read so far is that Dame went to Weber State. He went to a small school, so he didn't come into the NBA with big school expectations. Basically, Dame wasn't going to complain his first few years if things weren't going right, like we see some young stars in the NBA doing right now. Dame was going to do everything that he could to make himself great and the team great around him. And then when it got to the point that that's not enough, it was time to look around, and that's kind of the point that we're at right now. Damian Lillard has done everything that he needs to do and more. You really can't ask for much more from a franchise player. He's been a model citizen off the court. On the court, he's been absolutely dynamic, one of the best scorers in the game of basketball. And look, maybe it sounds crazy, but I also think that Dame's one of the best leaders in the sport. I think you could put a squad of bad NBA players around Dame, and I think Dame could bring him to the playoffs. I think he's that type of player. Teams are so deep now in the NBA, there's really only a handful of guys that you could do something like that with, but I truly do believe that Dame is one of them. Chris Haynes asked Dame if he watched the finals, and Dame was like, yeah, I've watched a quarter or so here and there. I literally watched 8 minutes the other night, and it's like you get jealous. Like, man, I'm enjoying my experience with Team USA, but I'd rather be one of those teams still playing. That's tough. That's deep. That's real right there. You see, Dame, there's one problem with the current landscape of the NBA. The landscape is changing. The chances are that if you want to win, you're going to have to team up. Let's be real. Do you guys think that any team was taking out the Brooklyn Nets fully healthy this season? Do you guys think that if the Los Angeles Lakers were healthy, that they're getting bounced in the first round? I think at some point the NBA is going to turn into the Champions League, where basically if you're not teaming up, it's like you're not trying. And I think honestly, we might already be at that point. And I think that's why we are starting to see a lot of younger players get frustrated faster. Zion played like 80 games for the Pelicans and is already like, F this, where the superstar is at. Okay, so that's like a hyperbole, but you guys get where I'm going. The NBA is changing. Just like life, you have to adapt or be left behind. I don't want Lillard's career to be filled with what ifs. I want it to be filled with accomplishments, with postseason accolades. So Nurkic and Dame are boys. Apparently Nurkic thinks everything is cap. The tweets are on the screen right now. And honestly, I don't know. Maybe Nurkic was on to something. I really doubt Dame would leave his teammates out to dry. So of course I'm going to think Dame's teammates know what Dame's true intentions are. Then again, if you guys remember the whole James Harden situation, at least some of Harden's teammates seem like they got left in the dark and were kind of blindsided by the whole Harden wanting out thing. John Wall spoke with the media like a lot of times, and he was pretty adamant that him, James Harden, and the rest of the team were going to try to find a way to work things out, and we all know how that ended up with James Harden joining the Brooklyn Nets, while also pretty much destroying his relationship with every member of the Rockets organization on his way out. But of course, that's apples to oranges because James Harden and Damian Lillard are two completely different players, and they have two completely different personalities. So today, Damian Lillard decided to speak on this whole Dame demanding a trade situation.
I woke up to those reports, a lot of people reaching out to me. But it's not true. I'll start off the rip and say it's not true. I said the last time I spoke to you guys that a lot of things are being said and, it hasn't come from me. So, number one, it's not true. And secondly, I'll also say that I haven't made any firm decision on, what my future will be. So there's really no need for anybody else to speak for me or report this or report that. If there's something to be said, as I said the last time, I'll speak directly with my team and with Neil. So, that's that.
On top of that, Dame said, my intention and my heart is to be a Portland Trailblazer my entire career. You want to win it all, but we have to be making strides to do that. If you look at our team as it is, I don't think you can say this is a championship team with a new coach. You guys remember when Harden said, you know what, I'm going to chill? There's a lot of different ways to take this Dame quote. But if I'm somebody that's in the Portland Trailblazer locker room, even though the quote is a hard dose of reality, it's not something you want to hear from your best player. If I'm in the Blazer locker room, I'm like, what do you mean you can't get it done with us? What do you mean our roster isn't a championship roster? If you're saying we're not good enough to win right now, you're saying some of us have to get traded. I know free agency is a thing. I know the draft is a thing. But at the end of the day, for this Blazers roster to significantly improve, there's going to have to be massive change. And when I hear the words change, and when I think of the Portland Trailblazers, one of the easiest changes to make, one of the best avenues they could probably take to upgrading their roster is trading CJ. And that just sucks to say, because CJ's been with that team and rocking with Dame for a minute, both small college kids that made it big in the NBA and just never succeeded at the highest level. And while they were both small college kids, Dame and CJ also happen to be two guards whose best attribute is simply putting the ball in the basket. And the unfortunate reality is that can be redundant, especially when your team is a team that struggles to get stops. An even harsher reality is, what move could the Blazers realistically make to become a contender? Some people think that this is just posturing from Dame. Are the Blazers a CJ trade away from contention? Are they one move away from contention? Probably not. But hey, regardless if they are or aren't, I think it's no secret that they now have to go all in. They have to get off of some future picks. They have to make the scary move that they may have not wanted to make in the past. If you're the Portland Trailblazers and you don't want to make that move and you don't want to mortgage your future, then it might be time to look at hitting that reset button, getting assets and a ton of picks back for Dame. Honestly, I can't even imagine what a trade package for Damian Lillard would even look like. This is a superstar in the prime of their career with a ton of time left on their contract. If you were the Portland Trailblazers, let me know what you guys would do in a stacked Western Conference. Do you guys think Dame should leave? Is enough finally enough? What trade could the Blazers possibly make that could catapult them up the ranks of the NBA? Clicking the video on the screen right now is a great way to support my channel. I'm Get Like Coop, bringing you guys the scoop until our next upload.